The reaction has been swift to President Obama's executive order on illegal immigration. Supporters are cheering it, while critics say he's going beyond his constitutional authority and he's acting like a king.
The debate is far from over because the issue is likely to end up in court. Jennifer Wishon has that story from Washington.
With the stroke of his pen today, President Obama will spare nearly 5 million illegal immigrants from getting deported.
Scripture tells us that we shall not oppress a stranger, for we know the heart of a stranger. We were strangers once too.
The main winners are immigrants who've been here illegally more than 5 years, whose children are citizens or legal residents. After passing a criminal background check, paying taxes, and registering, they can stay in the U.S. temporarily and work lawfully. The president's action will also make it easier for highly skilled immigrants to stay and work in the U.S. He also promises to keep deporting criminals, focusing law enforcement on what he calls the real threat to American security.
Felons, not families. Criminals, not children. Gang members, not a mom who's working hard to provide for her kids.
Although millions of illegal immigrants benefit from the president's actions, some 6 million are left out. Many Hispanic evangelical pastors say they see the destructive effects deportations have on families by breaking them up. Reverend Tony Suarez with the National Hispanic Leadership Conference tells CBN News he wants families to be able to stay together.
Children have been losing their parents, spouses have been losing their husband or their wife. This is about family reunification. This is about bringing families that love the Lord, that believe in the value of life and marriage, to keep them together in this country that they really genuinely love. For Suarez, the president is providing leadership in an area where Congress has failed. However, Speaker John Boehner says the president, by acting unilaterally and going around Congress, has ignored the will of the people. Boehner says that the president said it would lead to a surge in more illegal immigration. He said he was not a king and not the emperor, and that he was bound by the Constitution. He said an action like this would exceed his authority and be difficult to justify legally. He may have changed his position, Boehner says, but that doesn't change the Constitution. Responding to warnings by Republicans, President Obama says his actions don't amount to amnesty.
Amnesty is the immigration system we have today. Millions of people who live here without paying their taxes or playing by the rules, while politicians use the issue to scare people and whip up votes at election time.
Still, some call his actions unconstitutional. The Attorney General of Texas has already promised to challenge the president in court, and Republicans in Congress are certain to look for ways to challenge the president's actions as well. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, the White House.
Well, you can talk all you want about he's acting like a king and he's violating his constitutional duty to enforce the laws of the United States of America. But really what's going on here is he's a politician and he's playing politics with a large voting bloc and he's looking for 2 years from now. The cynic in me says, where was all this action 2 years ago when he was reelected? Where was it 6 years ago when he had a majority in both the Congress and the Senate, could have passed any legislation he wanted to and did? Where was immigration reform in that? I do hope out of this that there is serious discussion and serious legislation, because if you're an illegal immigrant and you're relying on this executive order, you've only got 2 years for it. There's going to be a new administration, and at what point in time does this amnesty lapse? There needs to be some kind of meaningful immigration reform that gets through Congress, gets through the Senate, and then is signed by a president and becomes law. Otherwise, it's still going to be a very murky issue. Well, in other news, the conservatives in Washington are exposing how some of your taxpayer dollars are being used by Obamacare. Ephraim Graham has that story from our CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, pro-life leaders are launching a new website so people can now find out which Obamacare insurance plans cover abortions. And that group points out tax dollars are helping to pay for these abortions.
Everyone, and I mean everyone, in all 50 states is being forced to subsidize elective abortions with taxpayer funds.
Despite an appalling degree of non-transparency and obfuscation by the administration, an extensive audit by the General Accountability Office found in September that 1,036 Obamacare exchange plans covered elective abortion.
And you can find a link to that website at cbnnews.com. Israeli Ambassador Ron Dermer tells CBN News his country will launch a tough counterattack in response to lone wolf Palestinian terrorism attacks in recent weeks that have killed 11 people. The brutal attack at a Jerusalem synagogue this week raised fears Israelis are now at risk anywhere in their nation. And Ambassador Dermer says Israel has to take action.
You'll see a very tough response, because you can imagine what the response would be if people came into a church in Washington, in your capital, and started hacking people with meat cleavers and shooting them. Obviously, your president would take a very strong response. So we'll have to wait and see what that is. But he's going to have to do what he has to do in order to defend the Israeli public.
Well, back here at home, with wintry weather still hitting much of the northern U.S., at least 12 deaths are now blamed on the massive snowstorm in Buffalo, with snow piling up to 8 feet high. Mark Martin has the story.
Brutal weather like the kind you can see in the middle of winter keeps hitting parts of the U.S., from lightning and thunder snow to feet of snow continuing to pile up in areas like Michigan all the way to western New York. Some people cannot get into their homes.
My wife's got cerebral palsy. I'm trying to get into the house. I said to at least get to her.
Others must get out. The heavy snow causing ceilings to collapse. Buildings are beginning to stagger under the weight. Homeowners shovel their roofs in addition to their driveways.
I got to get up there and shovel, otherwise this roof's going to come down.
Residents of a nursing home had to be evacuated after the roof, pummeled by snow, is in danger of caving in. A nearby warehouse already collapsed. Then there are rescues by snow machine. A person is carried to safety in a stretcher. The governor of New York is begging people to stay off the roads. In the meantime, Sunday's game will not be played at the stadium of the Buffalo Bills. Instead, it will be played in Detroit. Forecasters say temperatures are expected to warm up considerably this weekend. However, that means flooding is possible. Mark Martin, CBN News.
And Gordon, winter is still a little bit away.
Well, it looks like it's right here, right now in Buffalo, and so our hearts go out to those people. I can't imagine being either trapped in or out of your home and worrying about is the roof going to collapse, so our prayers are with you.
A secular display at Christmas? It could happen in Michigan. Officials there are considering whether to put a nativity scene on the state capitol lawn this year, along with the state Christmas tree. But the Freedom from Religion Foundation says if there's a nativity scene, there should be a secular counter display as well. Operation Blessing is helping families in Kenya overcome extreme poverty. Families are learning how to harvest drought-resistant crops through an initiative aimed at improving living standards. The farming program teaches villagers how to tend their own gardens and grow nutritious food to fight malnutrition. Villagers sell the crops at market to earn money for clothes, tools, and other necessities. They also learn money management and other skills to run their own businesses. You can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to ob.org.